not even a student of politics. In fact, I'm not a student of much of anything. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I don't even consider myself an American. If you and I were Americans, there'd be no problem. Those hunkies that just got off the boat, they're already Americans. The Polacks are already Americans. The Italian refugees are already Americans. Everything that came out of Europe, everything, every blue-eyed thing is already an American. And as long as you've been over here, as long as you and I have been over here, we aren't Americans yet. Well, I am one who doesn't believe in deluding myself. I'm not going to sit at your table and watch you eat with nothing on my plate and call myself a diner. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner. You must be eating some of what's on that table. Being here in America doesn't make you an American. Being born here in America doesn't make you an American. Why, if birth made you American, you wouldn't need any legislation. You wouldn't need any amendments to the Constitution. You wouldn't be faced with civil rights filibustering in Washington, D.C. right now. They don't have to pass civil rights legislation to make a Polak an American. No, I'm not an American. I'm one of the 22 million black people who are the victims of Americanism. One of the 22 million black people who are the victims of democracy. Nothing but disguised hypocrisy. So I'm not standing here speaking to you as an American or a patriot or a flag saluter or a flag waver. No, not I. I'm speaking as a victim of this American system. And I see America through the eyes of a victim. I don't see any American dream. I see an American nightmare.
Yeah.
He said what he said.
Hey. So the first thought comes in my mind though for us is, because before we get back into it, before we really jump into it, the first thing that comes to my mind is what's our place and purpose here in this country as black people? Because as I'm hearing that and I'm thinking about the actual year that he's saying this, and then looking at where we are now, because earlier today I was just thinking, the sad part about a lot of these lectures that we're breaking down is we're talking from the 90s on back, and they're just as relevant today or even more relevant today than they were then, because we have the face or the illusion of real tangible progress, but then we have the results and the conditions of digression. And so with that understanding and that actual reality that we're living in, that lead me back to, after listening to this, first question in my mind is what's our place in America and what's our purpose as black people in America? Like, why are we here? What are we doing here? Are we just here just surviving, just trying to make it, or are we really here to claim our place in this country that our ancestors built?
That's a question that we as Black people have yet to answer, even though we've been essentially asking that question um, since the late 1800s. I mean, I'm thinking in what was it, 1905, 1904, one of the roundabout one of them places. Uh, W.B. Du Bois published a series of 7 lectures, not just from him, but it had Paul Laurence Dunbar in there, a bunch of different prominent African Black scholars, and the name of the publication was The Negro Problem. It's actually up on the PAC's
Right.
website,
Right.
and it was centered around answering that question: what is the purpose of Black people in American society? And we know what the intent of us coming here was.
Labor class. Like, yeah, we were brought here to be a labor class.
Right.
Right.
But something changed along the lines, and now we're no longer the labor class. But we were never redefined, and we never defined ourselves.
Right.
So now we're still stuck in this block. Like, one of the things I think about whenever I hear this lecture or any lectures from prominent Black speakers back in the day talking about being Black in American society, it is the evolution of what it means to even be an American.
Right.
Like, what it meant to be an American in the 1950s and 60s is very different from what it means to be an American today. The viewpoints are different. The ideologies are shifted.
Right. Right. Right.
So,
our usefulness has declined.
yeah, I mean, Black people in America we're not the labor class anymore.
Yeah. We do serve as labor class in some capacities, but we are not the main labor class that we used to be. We talking from the dirty jobs to the white collar jobs. Like, we not in that no more.
Right. Well, Black people have been surpassed in terms of being the labor class by the Hispanics.
Mm-hmm.
And back then there wasn't a classification for Hispanic. So,
Right.
but over 90% of them classified as white.
Right.
A large portion of them still do, but they also claim their ethnicity. They claim their Hispanic ethnicity, and they are by and large dominating a lot of the labor class jobs. This is why you see, even when you look at TV and media and things like that, the entertainment sector, they're used to, in the 90s, the golden era of Black people, the 90s, right? There was always a Black sidekick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nowadays, that sidekick is Hispanic.
So there's a great book, Toms, Coons, Goots, Mulattoes, and Mammies. I might have messed the title up a bit, but I think it's Toms, Coons, Goots, Mulattoes, and Mammies. It's a book that's breaking down Black cinema from the beginning of Black cinema through the 90s. And that's crazy. I was just having this conversation yesterday. It breaks down the origins and just the evolution of the Black sidekick throughout Black cinema. And starting and maybe going back, but I know one of the earliest prominent ones was Sidney Poitier, Eddie Murphy in 48 Hours, and it was just always had a white guy with that Black sidekick.
Yeah. And Eddie Murphy in 48 Hours was, a lot of people don't really talk about how powerful that movie was for a lot of Black people, especially the scene where he walks into the country bar, puts the sheriff hat on, and says there's a new sheriff in town. Like, when I listen to a lot of older Black people talk about seeing that on TV, it was huge for them.
Yeah, it's like that Sidney Poitier slap.
Right. Yeah. So when we start talking about what does it mean to be Black in America, that's something that we as a community, as a group of people, we got to sit down and define what our purpose is for being here. And I think that's a cultural question as well, which is why we have so many cultural issues. We haven't figured out what our purpose is as a collective.
Yeah. All right. So let's go a little further.
I'm not a politician, not even a student of politics. In fact, I'm not a student of much of anything. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I don't even consider myself an American.
Now hold on, stop right there. I like what he said right here because people that don't know don't know. When he said, "I'm not a student of much of anything," right?
Hmm. Break it down, my brother.
Malcolm X was an intelligent man,
Very
extremely
intelligent.
intelligent. And he was intelligent enough to know where his skills were and what was a good, efficient use of his time. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that Malcolm X had a lot of people doing research and preparing things for him.
Yeah.
So you could say he was a student of people, or you could say he studied people, he studied the world, this, that, and the third. But the fact that he's saying, I'm not a student, I don't devote my life to studying this. I don't devote my life to studying that. I devote my life to doing this.
Hmm.
And the part that's not mentioned, but that for me is inferred because I know of the people like the John Henrik Clarks who were
Yeah,
preparing a
that
lot of
was people who was
historical
around him.
documents. Right.
Yeah.
Those people were students.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that
Well,
speaks to the teamwork aspect as well.
yes, yes. But it because it goes to something that we talk about all the time of um letting the experts be experts at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if let's say I'm a celebrity and I'm a celebrity who has my light switches come on and I'm awakened and I'm woke now, or I'm more conscious of what's going on in my path, right, and around me. But I'm studying more Black history. I want to know more. But let's say I'm a football player. My craft and what I dedicate myself to is football. And but that doesn't mean that I can't learn this Black history. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be a master teacher because I'm gonna be a football star. So I surround myself with master teachers, and I can be a spotlight or a platform for them and help to get the information out, and even be somebody who can help support them. But I believe in letting the scholars be the scholars and everybody kind of playing their role on the team, like you saying. Just I don't have to try to be that Black conscious leader because I'm an athlete, because I got this big name, and because I might say a few things that sound cool. Because really, my expertise is into football. That doesn't mean I'm a dumb jock. That just means most of my time and my energy is dedicated to football. But if I have somebody who most of their time and energy is dedicated to actual activism or dedicated to history, then those are the people I need to surround myself with, because when we come together, we could be a powerful entity.
Right. Right. And so that's exactly what I'm getting at. To spell it out more directly, even more directly, if you're an activist and you don't have any advocates and any historians in your group, you're not effective. Those are three different roles that do three different things. And for the movement to be effective,
You need
you
all of
need all three. You need your advocates who are going to go out and speak and do things and make their voices heard. You need your activists who are going to go out and do things, actually create real changes in behavior and activity. And you
them.
need your historians who are aware of what has happened, what's worked, why it worked, when it stopped working, why it stopped working, that can break all of that stuff down. And nowadays, you even need your psychologist, your sociologist, your anthropologist. You need all of these
Yeah.
people, and you can't be it all by yourself, which I think is one of the biggest problems we have in the community. Is everybody's trying to be an expert at
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. It's like the like African kings who had councils and African rulers who had councils. And the councils were made up of different people of different disciplines who were masters at their fields and who came together. But also thinking about like the story of Sundiata. And Sundiata had a jele or a griot. And that person's job was to learn all the history of these people and be able to teach that to the king. But it wasn't the king's job to learn this information though.
Right,
It was the jele's job to know this information and have it ready for the king. So
right.
you got to have your team. But
The
that don't mean
king's
the
job
king
is to
is
make a
totally ignorant.
decision.
Right.
Right. you got to be aware enough to know when you getting bad information.
Right. Because
But
you are aware, but you just not the master of that. But
right,
you have people around
you don't have the intricacies, the ins and outs. You know about, like, you know the Civil War happened between these years, but you don't know the names of all the generals and the strategies that were used and blah blah. You don't know all that
but
because
guess
your
what?
job is to make a decision.
Right, but somebody do.
So,
Right.
right, and you need to have that person around you. If you spend all your time, and this is the thing, right? There's only 24 hours in a day. It's not enough time, and that's where we go back to black people. We got to understand this aspect of organization. You don't know. You need a bunch of like-minded people in terms of heading to the same goal. But you don't need a bunch of like-minded people in terms of the same strengths and weaknesses.
Everybody need to be able to do something different. Bring something different to the table.
I'm not a speaker. I'm not a galvanizer. That's not what I do. So I do well when I can crunch numbers, do research, study, and analyze things, and then pass that information on to the people that do galvanize the community and all of these other things. Learn your lane, get comfortable in your lane. If you're not a light worker, be comfortable not being a light worker. The mere fact that this man can sit here and say, I'm not a student, all right? And we know that there were other people in his circle preparing information for him, but they were content. The fact that they were content to not become well known, to not try to cash in on his limelight and his ability to garner followers is what made him as powerful as he was. And not just him, Martin Luther King was the same way. All of them were the same way. Those guys that weren't historians but became well-known figures.
Right. But you know, we used to always say a lot of people today have what we call nextism, and I kind of played that off of Malcolm X's name because everybody wants to be, or not everybody, but a good number of people I say want to be Malcolm next. They want to be the next person. They want to be known. They want to be remembered, and it's not for everybody to be remembered. We just need to be making impacts and making change. Just play your lane. But